Coming up, the men's basketball team tries to turn things around in Columbus.
And the Indiana men's hockey team goes for gold in the TSCHL playoffs. This is Hoosier Sports Nite.
Hello and welcome to Hoosier Sports Nite. I'm Kara Adams.
And I'm Kelsey Dennehy.
Here we are, all the way from Friends First Semester in Media C101 to the desk.
How wholesome!
I know! The Indiana men's basketball team kicked off the week with a tough matchup at number 22, Ohio State. Our Evan Kamiko was in Columbus for the game.
It took an extra 5 minutes, but the losing streak continues as Indiana drops their 4th straight game to Ohio State.
With 15 on the clock, we played as well as we could play it, and then, we lost our man, at the Liddell at the rim, man, and he was able to dunk it and send it to overtime, man. That's probably the biggest possession of the game.
The Hoosiers found themselves down 11 early, but the defense kept them into the game until the very end.
Our defense has been solid all year. I mean, it's put us in the position where we could possibly win games. And, again, I'm not putting it on the players. As a coach, I've always put it on myself. I got to learn and help these guys get over the hump.
Without Trey Galloway, Rob Finney, and Christian Lander, the Indiana point guard depth is going to continue to be tested. With 4 games remaining in the regular season, Indiana's going to have to heavily rely on guys like Tamar Bates, Miller Kopp, and Xavier Johnson to carry the load.
I'm not sitting here complaining about being shorthanded. I thought we competed well enough to win the game. Now we got Maryland, which we played them early on, and we got to go home and try to get our mojo back. That's what it's all about. We got to find a win somewhere.
The Hoosiers are back in action on Thursday at Simon Scott Assembly Hall against the Maryland Terrapins. For IUSTV Sports, I'm Evan Kamiko.
Indiana is back at home tonight at 7 p.m. against the Maryland Terrapins. Follow along with Evan and Jevin Mikowski for all game day coverage.
It has been a hard pill to swallow for the Indiana women's basketball team as they are on their longest losing streak of the season. IUSTV sports reporter Audrey Hausberger has more on the Hoosiers' 2 consecutive losses.
2 losses against 1 team. The Iowa Hawkeyes hand Indiana women's basketball 2 back-to-back losses, both at home and on the road in the span of 3 days.
We just dug ourselves a hole. In the first half, the team that showed up in the 4th, a little bit in the 3rd, a little bit in the 2nd was the team that I thought was going to show up for most of the game today.
The Hoosiers first met up with the Hawkeyes in Assembly on Saturday afternoon, trailed by over 20 at one point, but fought their way back in the 4th quarter to almost steal a win.
We didn't play well at all, but we knew we had one more quarter to give everything we had, and that's what we did. It's frustrating because I think we could have done that earlier.
While Indiana held Iowa's leading scorer, Caitlin Clark, who averages about 27 points a game, to only 18 points total, another Hawkeye in Monica Sinano posed a bigger issue.
She's a really good player. There's no everybody knows that in the Big Ten and even NCAA.
With Mackenzie Holmes still warming up to gameplay after her injury, guarding and offensively producing against Sinano was a tall task to ask.
Mac is still not Mackenzie Holmes. I thought she had moments in the 4th, but, Mac is far from, where we need her to be.
It was a hard-fought loss for IU, but this one stung a little bit more for the seniors on senior night, especially for IU's longest tenured player, Allie Patberg.
You got it.
Yeah, obviously this is, I love playing here, so it's tough, and to lose is even tougher.
Your final score for Saturday's game ended with Iowa winning 96-91. A little over 48 hours later, another tough loss followed as the Hoosiers nearly had an opposite game, with keeping the score close holding the lead for much of the game and then losing it in the fourth quarter.
It's okay to be disappointed, but try not to get too discouraged because obviously at the end of the day, I mean, the postseason is what we play for.
Iowa took this win 88-82. For iOS TV Sports, I am Audrey Hausberger.
IU drops to number 5 in their Big Ten, while Iowa jumps ahead to take number 4 in the conference. You can watch the Hoosiers attempt to get back in the win column for their last regular season game against number 13 Maryland Friday night on the Big Ten Network.
Indiana's baseball 2022 season is off to a rough start following an opening series sweep by Clemson this past weekend. On Friday, the first game of the series went all Clemson's way. IU starter John Modugno was roughed up early, and the IU lineup could not touch Tiger pitcher Mac Anglin, only mustering 3 hits in a 9-0 shutout loss. Saturday's game marked the first appearance of the IU offense, scoring the first 4 runs. However, it would only go downhill from there, as the Tigers would score the final 19 runs of the contest. Hoosier pitchers walked 16 batters throughout the game, and IU only recorded 2 hits from the 3rd inning on. Sunday's series finale was much closer in a back-and-forth affair that saw both teams with equal opportunities to put the game away. The game went to extra innings, but a Briar Hoskins sacrifice fly in the bottom of the 10th ultimately decided the game in a sweep of the series. After a weather postponement of Tuesday's game with Miami, Ohio, IU's search for a first win of 2022 will continue in this weekend's Carbosh Round Rock Classic. First pitch for Friday's opener against number 2 Arkansas is scheduled for 5 p.m. Follow iOS TV Sports for updates on Indiana baseball all season long.
The women's swim and dive team traveled to Madison, Wisconsin to compete in the 4-day-long Big Ten championship meet. The Hoosiers finished 3rd overall and brought home some individual top 3 finishes as well. The only relay Indiana medaled in was in the 800 freestyle relay, where they took the silver medal and also broke a new program record in that event. Indiana also brought 9 individual medals back to Bloomington, including 2 gold. Those came from freshman Brianna Crawford in the 200 breaststroke and sophomore Taryn Gilliland in the platform dive. Next for swim and dive, the women's team will travel to Atlanta over spring break for the NCAA championship meet, while the men's team traveled to West Lafayette this week to compete in their own Big Ten championship meet.
Coming up after the break, track and field wrapped up their last indoor event of the regular season.
And we have the latest on tennis, wrestling, and more. You're watching Hoosier Sports Nite. Welcome back to Hoosier Sports Nite.
The Indiana wrestling team hosted the Chattanooga Mocs for their final dual meet of the 2022 season on Sunday. iOS TV wrestling beat reporter Riley Woodall has the action-packed recap of the meet that took place on Alumni and Senior Day.
In the last dual meet of the 2022 season, Indiana fell short of Chattanooga 21-15 after several tight matches.
The big thing that's changing with the program is that we're trying to just let everybody know that we belong, and we, everybody. It's going to take time to build a great program, and we know that. And so the best thing that we have is each other. And so I think a bunch of the guys, we all live together, we all hang out together, we do as much as we can to try to stay away from distractions, stay away from that kind of stuff. And then in the room, we're trying to live to a higher standard.
The Hoosiers came out strong against Chattanooga, besting the Mocs' only 2 ranked wrestlers at 125 and 133 pounds. Indiana's Brock Hudkins wrestled his last match inside Wilkinson Hall and was the only graduating senior to win at the meet.
That's always a great feeling, everything you're doing pays off. Not necessarily the win I wanted, but, it's great to have family and friends out here and the alumni and to, put on a show for them. So, I'm excited, I'm happy, just got to go back to the drawing board.
The meet was going back and forth in between highly contested matchups up until the 165 and 174 pound weight classes, when Chattanooga picked up clutch wins to put them out of range of the Hoosiers.
We had this whole season. It's a long season, and yeah, there's a couple matches that are closer just because of, the season, how long it is, but at the end of the day, it's a great time to look back and see all these matches.
With the regular season completed, Indiana sets its sights on the Big Ten and NCAA tournaments. Despite a 3-8 record overall, the Hoosiers have shown steady improvement as the season has progressed.
A lot of guys are pushing each other, keeping each other accountable, letting people know, nothing's guaranteed, so push yourselves, and the next guy's biting at the nips to get out there. So one thing I really love that Angel's doing now is we're really incorporating sports psych, so they really encourage us to get outside of the mat and get our mindsets figured out and be able to go into competition knowing what we want to get to, feeling good, learning how to control anxiety and things like that.
The grind to the two biggest tournaments in college wrestling has begun. For IUS TV Sports, I'm Riley Woodall.
The Hoosiers will travel to Lincoln, Nebraska next weekend to compete in the Big Ten Championship. Follow along with IUS TV Sports for all the tournament updates, and be sure to tune in to the Big Ten Network to catch your IU wrestling team in action.
The Indiana track and field wrapped up its final meet of the indoor season on Saturday as they traveled back to Notre Dame to compete in the Alex Wilson Invitational. The men's distance medley relay highlighted the meet by setting a new program record and a Big Ten record. Runners Camden Marshall, Kenny Benton, Parker Raymond, and Ben Veach ran a time of 9 minutes and 22 seconds to secure their names in the history books. Taking first place was Jake Gebert as he won the men's mile with a personal best time. Sean Mockler won his third weight throw competition alongside Adam Struff, who placed fifth. Leading the way in the women's 800 meter was Maria Anderson, who scored fourth overall, with teammate Shanae Diaz just behind her finishing sixth and both picking up personal bests. The Hoosiers will begin their postseason journey with the 2022 Big Ten Indoor Track and Field Championships this weekend.
The women's tennis team began their first road trip of their season this past week as they traveled to Lexington to face Kentucky, followed by a visit to Knoxville for a match against the Volunteers. Against Kentucky, Laura Schneider would lose her first singles match of the season, 6-0, 6-2. Laura Mazik was up 6-3, 5-3, but her match went unfinished. Mila Mejic and Alexandra Stakolescu would both lose their matches in 2 sets, as Kentucky would go on to easily rout the Hoosiers by a final score of 4-0, leaving a total of 4 matches unplayed. In their match against Tennessee, Indiana once again got off on the wrong foot by losing the doubles point. The Hoosiers' top 3 single players all lost their first sets, but played much closer second sets, only for all of them to get called early. This was due to the back end of the singles rotation, Mejic, Hu, and Cubas all losing, leading to Indiana's second 4-0 loss in a row. After a much-needed week off, the Hoosiers will return home this Saturday to host Cornell, followed by Xavier on Sunday and what will be a very important weekend of tennis.
IU men's tennis had a busy weekend with matches against both Butler and Xavier on Sunday. IUS TV sports reporter Kara Adams has more on the results from the weekend.
Indiana men's tennis team had a doubleheader today, taking on Butler and Xavier. The Hoosiers ultimately fell 4-2 to Butler. Spolsky and Patrick Fletchell were the only doubles teams to get a win against Butler this morning. Number 2 singles Patrick Fletchell and number 4 singles Luka Vjokovic took wins against Butler, but their 2 wins were ultimately not enough to clinch the overall win. While the Hoosiers fell to Butler, they showed a lot of grit and determination, as many players lost their first set but forced their matches to 3 sets. After a disappointing loss to Butler, the Hoosiers got back on track with a 4-0 win against Xavier this afternoon. The Hoosiers started off strong with wins at number 1 and number 3 doubles. Patrick Fletchell, Ilya Tierspolsky, and Luka Vjokovic continued that momentum and all got single wins against Xavier. Patrick Fletchell won both of his singles matches today, and here's what he had to say about his mentality going into his matches.
Just kind of taking each day in practice and working on something that I didn't do so well in the match before, and then just kind of leaning on my teammates. We're all big about energy, and when my teammates are giving me energy, I'm giving it right back, and I think that's when I'm playing my best tennis, is when we're all positive and we're all feeling like one unit. So I think just working on things at practice that I didn't do so well in matches, with the teammates being providing a lot of energy. So I think those are the two big things for me.
Indiana also made a lot of changes in their doubles lineups this afternoon. We asked head coach Jeremy Wertzman about that after the match, and here's what he had to say.
We're unfortunately, we've had a couple guys that have come down with some that are just not feeling well, and so we had to make some changes that we really weren't seeing. One even happened this morning that when he woke up, he just wasn't feeling well, so we had to make a change, and that changed our doubles lineup, but then also changed our singles lineup. And we tell the guys all the time, be ready to play, and that's why we prepare each guy. Each guy works really hard to make sure that if they get the call, they're gonna be ready. So today was one of those days, and it was nice to see some new guys step up and play today as well.
The Hoosiers will head to Louisville to take on the Cardinals in their first road match next weekend. You can follow along with myself and Blake Spillers for all updates. For IUS TV Sports, I'm Kara Adams.
IU travels to Louisville this Saturday for their first road match of the season against the Cardinals. Be sure to follow along with Kara Adams and Blake Spillers for all of the updates during the match. The number 17 Indiana water polo team went 0-3 this weekend at the Fresno State Invite. Indiana started a doubleheader on Saturday night with a 9-7 loss to number 10 UC Davis. IU junior utility player Zoe Crouch was the highest scorer of the match with 3 goals against the Aggies. Following that match, Indiana played an overtime thriller against number 8 Fresno State after a 6th goal in the 4th period. Senior attacker Tina Doherty scored 4 goals against the Bulldogs, making her the highest scorer of the night. However, it wasn't enough of a push as the Hoosiers lost 11-10 in the 6th period. Finally, on Sunday afternoon, Indiana lost to number 13 Long Beach State 6-12. Indiana water polo head coach Taylor Dodson spoke on Monday about the team's resilience during the Fresno State Invite and what the team needs to adjust to coming into the rest of the season.
Able to show that resilience was great, but then closing out is going to be a big emphasis for us the rest of the season. These next 2 weekends at the Calbus Invite in Irvine, and then when we go to Harvard, we're going to have 4 hard games again, both of those weekends. And we have to, whether it's 32 minutes or we go into overtime, we have to play the full game.
Indiana will head to UC Irvine to compete in the 2022 Calbus Invite this weekend.
The men's ice hockey team came back from Cincinnati, Ohio this past weekend, league champions. The Hoosiers secured the TSCHL championship over the Miami Redhawks in a 4-2 battle to the buzzer. Indiana advanced from the quarterfinal round with a victory against the Ohio Bobcats 4-1, with goals from captain Nathan Cesarski, Will Jeremy, and Ethan DiLorenzo with 2. The Hoosiers wiped away the Michigan Wolverines in the semifinal round with a score of 5-2, Aiden Simino and Will Jeremy both putting one away, and Tommy McDonald coming home with a hat trick. The championship game was the first time the Miami Redhawks had been down all weekend. Will Jeremy, Vladislav Krush, and Drew Michelli are the only players in the tournament to have scored on league MVP Colt Hanks. The Hoosiers move on to regionals with a matchup tomorrow against UNC Chapel Hill at 8 p.m. in Columbus, Ohio. Be sure to follow IUS TV Sports for all of the updates on the weekend.
And that's our show for the week. Thank you so much for tuning in.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at IUS TV Sports. For our production crew behind me, I'm Kelsey Dennehy.
And I'm Kara Adams. We'll see you next week.